It is exactly 8:39 a.m. This is News and Views on Salam Media, and we're now going to be looking at the situation where we as South Africans are truly fearing the possibility of stage 8 load shedding. What's that going to mean for us, for our lives, our economy, and moving forward as far as a sense of a normal life, normal as we knew it a couple of years ago. Um, the story of South Africa seems to be getting progressively worse. But okay, I'm in cynical mode today. I'm angry. I feel cheated as a citizen. I pay my taxes, and this is what we get. Load 8. We're talking about stage 8 load shedding. I'm afraid. I'm very afraid. Let's talk with you, Tshepo Kgadima, independent economic, energy, and political analyst. A very good morning to you. And I do hope that you can throw some positive light on the subject of discussion this morning. Welcome.
Ms. Ali, good morning to you and good morning to the listeners of Salam Media.
Okay, so you can hear how cynical and how angry I am regarding the possibility of stage 8 load shedding. Please tell me it won't come to that.
The only positive news I can share with you and the listeners is that you have been forewarned, therefore prepare yourselves.
What does it mean
because
when we talk stage 8?
It's going to get progressively worse. And what I have feared is about to happen. I've spoken at length about the risk of the great collapse. As much as they have publicly denied and argued that is a very remote risk, but look at the response of the government itself. They have come up now and declared a national state of disaster on Eskom. And one of the grounds they have advanced for having declared the national state of disaster is the risk of the great collapse.
Okay, so Tshepo, what does stage 8 mean to us as a country? What's it going to look like? How is it going to impact on our lives? And as you've rightly said, you and I have been discussing this, and you have been talking on other platforms as well about this very dire situation for a long time now. Surely the red flag must have gone up as far as government is concerned. Why have they been so reactive on this situation? Do they not realize that this can bring the country to a total standstill?
No, they do realize, and they know full well that the risk has been heightened by the decisions they have taken, except that they have made a pact with the devil, because it makes no sense whatsoever that they can continue to steam ahead and mention that South Africa has got a greenhouse gas emissions problem. We must therefore reduce our greenhouses, forego our use of coal. It is insanity to say the least, because coal to South Africa is what oil is to the Saudis. It is insanity to not use coal, particularly taking into account that we can double our current coal production and still have another 120 or so years with the use of coal. And actually, we can be able to produce cleaner energy from coal, whereby there are absolutely zero emissions. And I can speak authoritatively on this because I am a subject matter expert. There are technologies today that enable us in a cost-efficient manner to harness energy from coal, produce a whole range of other byproducts from coal without any emissions, and therefore achieving the net zero goals that we have committed to in terms of reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, but at the same time ensuring that our nation can be energy secure, because energy security is state security and sovereignty. When you are energy insecure, you are effectively going to call for unrest, but that is going to be violent, unfortunately. And so nothing is being done. But as I say, it's motivated by none other than that every single commitment that has been made towards the so-called just energy transition, the introduction of renewables, the shutting down of our coal-fired power stations, has been done at the behest of the greedy profiteering privateers who have got a government that is so out of tune, so out of touch, that they can imperil the entire economy of the country and bring about untold hardship on the people of this land without due regard, but all in search for that profit that they themselves, maybe stand to share in. Because that is the problem we sit in. Here now, they are now talking about stage 8, but they are not now stating as to at stage 6, which currently is the situation I'm in. Power just left at 8 o'clock. It will come back at 12:30. And at 2 o'clock this morning, power left, came back at 4. So in all of that, what happens is that ESCOM loses in excess. In a stage 6 environment, they lose in excess of 11.2 million rand per hour. So whatever timeline you are looking at in a day, the losses, revenue losses, are over 200 million, but the cost to the economy is over 1 billion rand. And that means that as more areas are in darkness, we are going to see the risk of equipment failure increasing, because the criminal syndicates are certainly now well prepared to be able to harvest this vulnerable critical infrastructure of the electricity grid. And that equipment failure is going to trigger a immediate collapse of the grid. And when the grid collapses, as I've said it before, the word catastrophe does not even tell you 10% of what will happen. In the first instance, the moment there's a total collapse of the grid, there's going to be panic and chaos. And the government is not even prepared or does not even have contingency measures of dealing with that situation of panic and chaos when the electricity collapses. And within a period of 3 days, the security forces in this country, whether it's the police, the National Defense Force, the private security, within 3 days, they will have all run out of resources to be able to keep stability, law and order in the country. So if it takes 3 weeks, let's give it to ESCOM people, because they are very optimistic, that it will take 2 weeks to bring the system back up in the event of a total collapse of the grid. The question they have not told us, or answered rather, is what happens in day 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And in day 14, when you eventually now say, I can be able to restart completely, bring the system back up, what assurance do we have that there will still be the transmission and the distribution grid intact to allow us to be able to get back to a sense of normality? So we will be plunged into the new era of the dreaded dark ages. And the first dark ages lasted for 400 years. In this instance, we are going to be in the dark ages for at least the next 40 years.
Sure. All I can say is the second time I'm saying it this morning. In my first interview with Dr. Breakfast regarding the State of the Province address, and I'm saying it yet again. God be with us. God help us through this very, very dark hour. Let's look at the impact on the rest of the country. The common people like you and I, living in the suburbs, maybe running a little business, a little eating house, a restaurant, a butchery, whatever it is. Does that mean a total shutdown of absolutely everything when we reach stage 8? And how soon do you believe it would happen?
It could happen this week. And I say that on the following basis. On Saturday, no one at ESCOM, by their own admission, anticipated the number of units which were to immediately trip and break down on Sunday. So if you have got people who are managing the power system themselves being caught by surprise whenever there are breakdowns, then what assurance can you have that we can't even get to stage 8, except that they've been reluctant to say what measures do they have in place when you are in stage 8. And most of the measures that ESCOM should be that of saying, what are we going to do to ensure that as a greater part is under load shedding, then how, where are we going to get security? Because the best security for a transmission and a distribution grid and a substation is a live wire, meaning there must be electricity on that. So if you start cutting more areas of electricity, you make them vulnerable. And as I say, when they become vulnerable to vandalism and plunder, then of course you've increased the risk of a total collapse of the grid, because then that leads to equipment failure. So in this case, the collapse of the grid will be triggered by equipment failure, but equipment failure will be a result of vandalism and plunder, and that will be a result of the higher stages of load shedding, where a bigger territory of the country is in darkness for longer periods of time. And because of the vastness of the grid, of the network, it is not humanly possible to guard each and every single kilometer of the vast transmission grid and the distribution grid, which is well over 430,000 kilometers.
And as you speak, Tshepo, what comes to mind as well is there's going to be a total blackout. Not only, when I say total blackout, there's going to be a total blackout on news, telephones, cell phones, cell towers, everything. There's going to be a total blackout. And to add insult to injury, our government is just dawdling along in slow motion mode. And Cyril Ramaphosa, as indecisive as ever, is still going to talk and appoint a Minister of Energy. I rest my case. Tshepo, in closing, what do you want to say?
Look, I've called for the appointment of the CEO or the next CEO of ESCOM. That interview process must be done in public, because whoever raises their hand as a candidate, I firmly believe that they must be able to present a plan, a turnaround plan, which is practicable and has got measurable outcomes. And those measurable outcomes, one of the key outcomes must be to bring to an end the rolling blackouts once and for all within a period of 90 days. They have 90 days, and it is possible with the existing infrastructure of ESCOM to bring that to an end. If you can't bring to an end load shedding or rolling blackouts within a period of 90 days, in 12 months from now, ESCOM will not have a customer, for a simple reason that as we speak right now, ESCOM has not factored as to how many megawatts they are losing with the rooftop solar PV, with the UPSs, with a number of people that are going off grid. They seem not even to be aware that between 2015 and 2022, more than 5,000 megawatts migrated. 5,000 megawatts of demand, which should have been met by ESCOM, have migrated. So the risk, of course, is that with higher stages of load shedding, if you don't bring an end to load shedding quick enough, people are going to migrate because they are getting their house in order. As they now migrate off grid, it means that the precarious financial situation of ESCOM is going to be even more dire. That's what the risk that is there. So you have to have a person who will have the skill, the expertise, the knowledge, and the fortitude to be able to bring to an end once and for all rolling blackouts, but also reduce the cost. And lastly, I want to say, the discrimination, the unlawful, unconstitutional discrimination, particularly of prepaid electricity users, that CEO must bring that to an end. because the current prepaid electricity users are discriminated unconstitutionally, where they are paying between 3 rand and 3 rand 41 cents a kilowatt hour, when NERSA has approved a 1 rand 86 cent tariff. But also, the CEO must do everything possible within this year, financial year, bring down the tariffs to 1 rand 16 cents, because the true cost of electricity production and delivery in this country, everything else included, is 87 cents a kilowatt hour. Everything else above that is because it is a sinister scheme to steal, to thief, is based on nothing but corruption. The tariff, the cost of electricity is 87 cents based on Eskom's audited financial statements. Therefore, the tariff should be no more than 1 rand 16 cents, even if Eskom was to make a profit margin of 33%, which is very rich for a power utility. Because that is the only way that Eskom can survive, but our economy can have a chance of being able to grow. Those are the urgent decisions that must be taken, not next month, but they must be taken immediately if we are to avert the catastrophe that is upon us.
Tshepo, I'm going to close off by asking you this one very important question and ask you to please consider it if you don't mind. It's for the benefit of all of us as South Africans. Please apply for the position of CEO of Eskom, because you are the type of mind and person we need there to turn this country around. I leave it at that, and I hope and pray you're going to consider that. Thank you for being with us on the show this morning.
Thank you. I've appreciated being on the show.
Are you going to think about it?
Interesting
Tshepo?
proposition.
Pardon?
It's an interesting proposition.
There you go. I know you're going to sleep on it. Till the next time, as always, go well, God bless, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
8:57 News and Views right here on Salam Media. Next, we're going to be talking about something light, something sublime, something beautiful. We need to get out of this dark space that we're in, that we started the show on this morning. Let's talk art. Let's talk beauty. Let's talk subliminity. And that will be with Asma Mullah, Lens Art Expo coordinator.